A full-scale war with Ukraine leads to the dominance of illegal, criminal communities and behavior patterns in the armed forces, local politics, economic management, etc. in Russia. Good afternoon. This is a daily wrap-up on UATV channel, explaining complex things in simple words. Putin's regime itself has busted out of a criminal swamp, with its prominent representatives allowing themselves to publicly use inmates' lingo and behavior. State propaganda glorifies mercenaries and inmates being brought to the war, romanticizing the criminal order of things and way of life. PMC Wagner, represented by inadequate, disenfranchised and cheap-convict soldiers, is gaining more and more military and political weight in Russia, becoming a sort of a prototype of the entire Russian army of the future. Both Russian courts and regular Russian officers are forced to tolerate Kremlin preferences in favor of the Wagnerites, despite their legit private military campaigns, inmate recruitment in Russian penitentiary facilities. Putin's army these days really is a Russian Matryoshka doll of a sort, a crime inside a crime inside a crime. Thieves, robbers, murderers and swindlers of all sorts, this is a backbone of a Russia Today army. No surprise that desertion is a common thing. Often they just grab them weapons and run to commit further crimes inside Russia itself, and that's okay. Because if and when they get caught and thrown into the jail again, then again, they can be recruited. Or brave new Russian world that has such people in it.
Now that recruiters and mercenaries have gone around the colonies in a second circle, most of the people are refusing. Firstly, the work of independent journalists, including Ukrainian and foreign ones who cover this, plays a huge role here. Let there be an information curtain and a blockade, but information leaks out and people, through the veil of propaganda, begin to see clearly and understand that this is not the war that Putin shows with his propaganda on TV. Secondly, a logical question among the prisoners arises. Where is the first group of prisoners?
And if they stay, with their very presence, they decompose the morale and the discipline. Since the social strata of the above-described kind is a natural carrier of criminal habits and behavior that is being easily and gratefully perceived by Russian army units, moral humiliation, beatings, rapes, executions. This is a natural order of things in Russian army. No matter what Putin's plans were when he just started this horrible criminal adventure in Ukraine, what he has achieved by now is only creating a big penitentiary and arming it. Insane maneuver indeed. Lawlessness on the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, encouraged by Russian administration looting and robbery, clearly shows it to the world. In an attempt to reduce the effect of Western sanctions, the Putin's regime has legalized smuggling. The Russian authorities almost openly support drug trafficking and the illegal arms market.
This is a man who was engaged in the supply of weapons, inciting conflicts in the interest of the Kremlin. His value lies in the fact that he was ready to carry out the most important tasks on behalf of Putin, on behalf of the FSB, in the hands of the Kremlin, and the actual implementer of the tasks, but there are a lot of civilian people killed in conflicts.
Russia finds crime as a handy tool in a hybrid war against the West. What a breathtaking, jail-breaking action thriller could it be, if not only a sad reality, would it be? Russia now officially promotes the shady circulation of, you name it, literally everything. Currency, weapons, drugs, people. It corrupts any European officials if it can, and it can. Well, what can we say? No matter how long the rope is, there's nothing left to it but the end. The USA plans to expand the list of weapons that will be sent to Ukraine and plans to send joint direct attack munition kits, as reported by the Washington Post due to information from its own sources. Let me remind you that for several days by now, the mass media have also been reporting that Ukraine may receive Patriot air defense systems. I don't know what exactly caused such a decision, but we in Ukraine wholeheartedly support it. 15 Iranian drones were shot down near the capital and in the south of Ukraine just yesterday.
Russia is seeking to collaborate with Iran in areas like weapons development training. Moscow is offering Iran an unprecedented level of military and technical support that is transforming their relationship into a fully fledged defense partnership. We have also seen reports that Moscow and Tehran are considering the establishment of a joint production line for lethal drones in Russia. We urge Iran to reserve course not to take these steps. John Kirby, White House National Security spokesman.
Well, of course. We in Ukraine welcome all the decisions of Washington which help us defeat the second, or whichever it has become after losing all the turf to us, army of the world. Ukrainians have clearly shown that they know how to use and quickly learn any modern weapon. Yes, our latest developments can destroy the Russians. Yes, the Kremlin and the Russian Ministry of Defense have repeatedly reported that they destroyed them. Well, didn't you hear? In Russia, they are heroes alive speaking aloud who shot down our drones in swarms. Yes, that's right, swarms of drones. If you only could count them, Russian reports of destroyed HIMARSes. There are already more than 100 of them reported destroyed by Russia, while we never even had that many of them. Well, to say the truth, we are very successful in making these fake wooden models of HIMARSes on which the Russians keep on spending their expensive missiles. Maybe those are included in these reports. We have not seen any video or photo evidence of the destroyed United States equipment in almost 10 months of war. While we surely saw Ukrainians who has proved to treat modern Western technology as a handy tool for destroying our enemy. And we know how to use it and adjust the modern technology to the current battlefield conditions like no one else in the world does. We have set a record on the effectiveness of the javelins. 112 shots, 100 hits. This is the official statistics of the Pentagon. Unlike Russian statistics, these figures do not need to be made up. You only have to look at Russian troops retreating to have them figures confirmed. With no false modesty, we are doing good. Very.
The Ukrainians are absolutely astounding at learning new systems very quickly and putting them to good use, and even modifying them for uses that go beyond what we thought they were capable of. And that's one of the things that I think makes it so valuable for American equipment to be in Ukraine. The Ukrainians are also inventing a whole new way of war. And this is something that will absolutely, if the United States takes advantage of it, it will absolutely change the tactics, techniques, and procedures that the United States uses in battle.
We are fighting out of the box, shooting down helicopters with anti-tank weapons. We have invented and never-seen-before tactics, allowing us to use HIMARSes in a way NATO generals have never heard of, and they are amazed with it. Ahead of our army, at various points scattered across hundreds of kilometers, secret depots of ammunition are made. Then, an empty HIMARS is transported to that location, gets locked and loaded on the spot, fires the missile, drops an empty cartridge and leaves for the next location, and so on. HIMARS shoots overnight from several locations, spread over a couple of 100 kilometers along the front line, just one HIMARS. Or, for example, those barges used to liberate Zmyny Island. The New York Times wrote about them. The Ukrainian military had to resort to tricks to get the enemy there. They installed French Caesars on a barge. The positions of Ukrainian soldiers were located around 50 kilometers from Zmyny Island, and the Caesar has a 40 kilometers radius of action. Therefore, installed on the barge, we towed them to a distance of 10 kilometers right to the shore and fired. All these inventions to tactics show clearly again and again Ukrainians' military ingenuity, so you can be sure the newest weaponry will be used in the best way possible, or maybe even in an impossible one, since it gets in our hands. These air defense systems we need badly to defend the critical civilian infrastructure, which Russia is currently attacking, being impotent to win army on the battlefield.
We are constantly strengthening our air defense and anti-drone defense, and we are doing everything to get more modern and more powerful systems for Ukraine. This week we have made important progress on the air defense issue. There is no calm on the front line. There is nothing easy and simple. Every day and every matter is given extremely hard, especially where the entire tactic of the occupiers boils down to the destruction of everything in front of them with artillery, so that only bare ruins and craters in the ground remain.
Let me put it as straightforward for you as it damn is. Any delay in getting this weaponry is not acceptable. Our intel has it that in January, maybe February, Russia is preparing a new massive strike. Oh, we can handle it, but it will be nice and less casualties having the newest weapon on our hands. To defeat the aggressor, maddened by his continuous series of losses and failures on the battlefield, craving for revenge at any cost, Ukraine must have the strong air defense. This is why we say yes to United States and their preparations to provide us with Patriots. We say yes to Great British aid, 125 units of air defense systems and technology to counter Iranian drones. The threat of Iran's supply of ballistic missiles to Russia also requires an adequate international response. Ukraine gives the free world a unique and extremely costly for us opportunity to gain unique expertise to test modern air defense systems against missile terror campaigns on our Ukrainian territories. Please don't forget, it will cost only money to the free world. To us, it will cost lives. Putin has cancelled his traditional New Year's Eve plans and won't be even playing ice hockey on Red Square this year. Dmitry Peskov, the Russian dictator's spokesman, confirmed it, reporting that Putin is not planning to play ice hockey on Red Square this New Year's Eve. Just by the way, Putin also cancelled his press conference and address to Russia's Federal Assembly. He also said the Kremlin was tired of being asked about the address and suggested that people should stop reading tea leaves. Well, what's left there, Mr. Peskov, but tea leaves? There's simply no point reading anything else in Russia, as everything else is Kremlin news, and Kremlin either keeps silent or lies. So tea leaves seems, compared to any other options, quite legit. I mean, listen to your own self, Mr. Peskov. My colleagues say the address may take place next year. Right, well, thank you. Awaiting for an annual address to the press and Federal Assembly to happen next year. Peskov did not, however, explain the reason for the cancellation of Putin's traditional plans.
В идеале, конечно, было бы для самих россиян.
Ideally, it would be for the Russians themselves to close Putin in the bunker, shows his appeal, but the main thing is not to let him out of the bunker anymore. They must have carried out some reforms in their own country and calmed down, because otherwise Ukraine will do it. But I don't see that he had any message that he can boast of, only to tell that it is necessary to fight.
Well, let us do that for him. It is well known that dictators just are not really bothered by reality. The hell they need it for? They have their own reality, the one where they say what they want, when they want, and how they want it. So what should have had happened for Vladimir Putin, who loves to talk again about himself? His Putin version of Russia, its successes on land, at sea, and in space, in science and medicine, and in the special military operations, of course. What had happened? So there was nothing more left to say for Putin. What silenced the last Russian dictator? 100,000 Russians dead, fertilizing the Ukrainian land with their bodies? Nah. Dictators just do not care about the lives of their slaves. There are enough Russian women to ensure a new wave of Russian mobilization. So there's not a problem.
Now, among the people prevails next mood. We try not to interfere in politics and the affairs of authorities. Do not tell us about the war. We are tired of it. We don't hear anything victorious from there, so we don't want to know anything. Here is such a gloomy passive defensive consciousness that mass thinking builds a wall in its consciousness. You don't need to tell me about it. Tell me better about the lunar tractor.
Well, maybe it's more than $1 trillion spent on a war that is already turning into irreparable reputational, national, political, economic, and again, financial losses in the future? No. Dictators just do not care about what will happen to their country. Only thing they care is power. Power is important to them. Is it the result of the impact of international sanctions, maybe? Oh, please. With the start of the war, the International Exchange Index quotes of the company that mines diamonds in Russia and sells it, of course, in Europe and United States at $250 million a month. Company named Alrosa showed a drop of 25%. Then, 2 weeks later, index reaches pre-war levels. Well, welcome to the world of the golden calf, where demand meets supply no matter what. Profit is sacred. And the free civilized world has been and always will be buying Russian diamonds, oil, and Ukrainian grain stolen by Russia, simply because it is profitable. Maybe Putin is ill, dying. Nonsense. Dictators don't die. Death is for poor. Dictators have doppelgangers to die or live for them depending on the situation. Maybe it's shame. The option is not even worth commenting. What then? Perhaps Peskov told the truth this time without even noticing it. He said the Kremlin is tired. Sounds quite likely, because maybe it's just all the above together. Maybe Kremlin is tired. After all, there's a war to lose, a trial to face, and the collapse of your bloody regime to face. And that bench in The Hague looks so uncomfortable. And it's getting closer and closer. And that age, and perhaps, for the first time in the history, the world news agencies, war experts, and tea leaves, all maybe for the first time, are telling the truth and agree in their assessment of what is happening. Putin's inevitable demise. It was Henry Keenan, a daily wrap-up channel explaining complicated things in a simple way on UATV. Subscribe on us in YouTube. See you tomorrow.